Well, to all of you millions, yes. Miles asked me, put up your PowerPoint. Well, this is my PowerPoint. I pointed out to you, okay? I have to show it to the camera here. Get it? You do something about that then. Okay. Okay, my name is Mirjam Janse. I am not Mirjam Janse. I took all these years to get to know Mirjam a little. I've been Mirjam Janse in this lifetime, but I've been me during several lifetimes. Does that sound familiar to you? I thought so. I work as a healer and a claircognizant. Sometimes I say I'm a clairvoyant because it's less confusing than being a claircognizant. And I've been educated as a healer, a coach. I call myself a transformational coach because I love helping people, assisting people in going through a transformation process. And by doing so, I help myself big time. I really love what I do, and I don't do much. So the fun, and that's also the title of this lecture is called Own Your Healing. Who else is owning it? Who else is owning your healing? Right? So look at where the healing is taking place. And that's the beautiful thing right now, and that's there have been several speakers who touched upon this already in the last 2 days. And I'm just augmenting a little bit more. When you look at a person, and especially a person in stress, in a depression, having an illness, having something that is bothering them, you can look at all the layers that are there. And I really mean all the layers. So mainly, you say, okay, we'll look at the physical body. It's been pointed out already, there is no physical body, okay? But still we use it as a device to get to know ourselves. So I look in the mirror and say, hi Mirjam. And somehow it does reflect something back to me. It says something about who I am in that moment, in that body, but it doesn't tell me who I am. So when a client comes to me, I say, okay, let's see what's going on in your device. And then I'm not talking about the physical body, I'm talking about all the organs, all the veins, all the spine, all the cells, the blood, the lymph, everything that's in the body, and you can scan it. But what's more important, I can scan it, but you can scan it. You can all scan your own body. Not only your body, but you can also scan your aura, your energy field. You can scan your etheric body, your emotional body, your rational body, you call it mental. Mental, okay. And then beyond. And then you get into the field where you're talking about the field of unity. And you know, I kind of stepped away from naming everything because it's confusing to name things. But here and there, okay, we'll use some names to make it a little bit clearer what it's about. But there you get into the field where you say, okay, my field is also my environment. It's also my family. It's also by my house. It is the last generations. It's my past life stuff. It's the past life of my country. It's the past life of this world. It's the past life of this universe. Can we say that? That's interesting. All that is part of your energy field. So when you go and look for how can we heal, How can we own our healing? You look at all the aspects in this field. Wow, that's quite a job. How am I gonna know what the history is of my country? How am I gonna know what karma lies in my family? How am I gonna know what lies in the dysfunctional of the blueprint in my cells? Well, that's the thing that I would like to invite you to tonight, because I'm Saturday night show. So, I mean, yeah, okay. It is the thing that is the most, let's say, the most intense thing I experienced over the last few months. And suddenly the thing that happened to all of us in the last few years falls into place. You know we are going through a transformation. I saw some beautiful slides from Carrie going up, and I'm really fast mentioning it, but you're all aware of it. Why? Because 9 out of 10 who are in this place right now are old souls. How do you know? Well, there are some specifics that go with old souls. One is that you have probably almost died a few times. Think of it. That's the funny, I'll tell you one time that I almost died. That's when I had a motor accident and I was far too young to drive the motor, so I wasn't allowed. And the motor went over my head, and I was like, in that moment I saw my life pass by, and the funny thing is, I realized, I'm far too young to have my life pass by. There's not enough information here. I need to get more information. But the beautiful thing is, at that time, I saw it was emotional. All the information that passed by, boom, was emotional. And that already contributed to who I am. How well I resonate with the real me. So that's one of the things. So you probably have thought about it right now. You feel familiar with it. The other thing is that you will probably be very familiar with an existential loneliness. You know how it feels to be alone by yourself, left alone, cut off, separated, those kind of things. And looking for people who understand where you are about. Well, I can say there are around about 75–85% of people are not old souls. It's a bit tricky to say that, okay. I do that because it's very courageous to be an old soul and here, now, listening to these talks, integrating the information and carrying it with you outside and say, listen, I integrated this information, I'm going to radiate it. So I'm inspiring everyone who comes in my vicinity. That's courage. One more thing that is a specific of old souls is that you are aware of the fact that you have a meaning in life. You know you're here for a reason. Maybe you don't know the reason yet. And that's one of the things that my work is about, and I love that, because when you hear, feel, think, dream, draw, or get to the point that says, this is why you're here, your whole life lights up. And there is a revelation and an enhancement of energy that is beyond anything. You can always go back to that point, now I know. I don't know what I know, but I know. And that is such a big support in everything you do. Because when you know that where your life is about, you get more courageous. You resonate with other old souls. You gather with other old souls. You get things happening like this conference. Therefore, I would say it's very important that you discover or research, get to know, get familiar with who you really are. And the funny thing is, the moment I look Who am I? There's not much there. But still, the discovery, the whole adventure of finding out has been quite a trip. We have been looking at some really intense stories yesterday about abuse and entities. And I'm not a specialist at it, but I've seen entities, I've seen the dark forces, I've been threatened. They wanted to kill me even. Can't imagine why. But, you know, I do a better job at that than they do. That's what I think. But nevertheless, I like to look at all the aspects, and since I've met all the different forces, like I have a hard time naming them, but I looked into the eyes of people and I could see they were not there. Their body was taken over. And when I addressed the darkness in them, they got furious. And by them getting furious, they got to a certain point where they could, and I could invite them, because I'm just holding up the mirror. I'm only holding up the mirror and say, okay, you want to continue this way? You don't belong here. Some went. Some stayed. And they walked out and said, I'm never coming back here. So that's okay. If you're not ready, then you're not ready. So I'm not going to push anything here. It's your time. It's your life. It's your story. Really. But the beautiful thing is that sometimes you get the... there's a situation where you can help someone. I had a client who came in looking like, you call that, I think, a floor cloth, where you really, you wipe the floor with, all gray, looking like a zombie, like, really, like, oh my gosh. And I must say, sometimes I'm really shocked by the people that come to me for help. And she said, well, I understand when you don't want to work with me. I said, what? What's going on here? And she said, I've been to so many alternative healers. Nobody wanted to help me. Nobody could help me. So if you don't want to work with me, it's fine. I'll go. And she was on her way out. She was already. I said, wait a minute, nobody's going to say that to me. So I said, no. Let's look at what's happening with you in your energy field. Let's see what's going on. So I put her on the couch. I did my scan, and it's a medical scan, but it's an energy scan, and it's asking for guidance, also connecting to the guides of the soul that's there on the table. Most of the times there are a lot of energies that make themselves known at that time. But with her, it was like you're looking at a solid block of concrete, no life. So, okay. So I looked better, and then I saw she was really taken over by an entity. And it makes the whole energy field like a kind of a mist. You can't really, I like the presence of guides and spirits, whatever, because, whoa, the whole space is filled with energy when that happens. My gosh, do I like that? That's a ballroom full of energy. And it does swing. But with this lady, everything was static. And it was mist. And say, okay, so I brought all the mist together to one ball. And then I threw that ball out of her field and filled that vacuum with light. And she was like, oh? I just let her go. I said, go for a walk, call me tomorrow, see how it feels. Don't have to do anything, but be quiet for a while. And she called me the next day and said, I don't know what happened. Normally I don't sleep, I cannot eat. I fight with everyone. She said, I ate, I slept, and I had a good talk with my kids. She was over the moon. And I was kind of, whoa, that worked, that's nice. I'm always depending on the receiver. You know, you can't push a healing through someone. You cannot. You can only invite someone to do their own healing. So at least she allowed this, and I kept working with her, and we looked at all kinds of issues from her youth and what she encountered in work and lots of things. And at a certain moment, and she was really like, whoa, regaining her life after 23 years of grayness. She was very devastated. So a few months later, it was maybe almost a year, she said, Mirjam, I need to talk to you. So she came to me, and I said, okay, talk. Tell me. She said, I'm in love with you. I said, oh my. And it was on the end of the day, and I already had some sessions like, oh gosh, how am I going to support this? I mean, it was a woman, and I'm attracted to funny men. But she was very dedicated to expressing her love. And said, okay, well, you know, I'm your coach. I cannot be your relation. So I had to let her go home and just sit in it. And after a month, she came back and said, you know what happened? I fell in love with another woman. And I said, well, let's look at this, because what's happening? And that's why I tell the stories, that she used me I created a field of safety, security, in which she could feel that she basically loved women. And that her, in this case, bisexuality wasn't accepted by her mother, because her mother was, dress up, you need to charm the man, go on, you know, be the nice girl. And she was like such a vivid and intuitive person that she felt suppressed for so many years, that she kind of dimmed, like the Kirlian picture showed so well, she dimmed her hour, and there were so many open places that this really entity kind of energy could enter. It just took over her life. So in a way, it was a beautiful circle to come back to the suppression of her mother. She was not living up to the expectations of her mother that made her open to entities. So now she knows where to work on. Great. It's one of the things that I say, and that was mentioned these days as well. Everybody is mind controlled. The moment they called me Mirjam, I was mind controlled. The moment I was born on that certain day, with that certain date, in a certain town, in a certain family, I was mind controlled. No way out. But it doesn't really matter, because it's all in a game. Understanding the fact that that's a game, that's the real adventure. And there are so many sources of mind control outside these paradigms that we know as a kind of reality, which it isn't. But still, there are a lot of people that even don't dare to deal with the spirits of others, like the ones that are still alive, but also the ones that are dead. I have had many clients that still carry the burden of the ones that are deceased. They pick up the responsibility also just because they need the sense of an identity. Don't forget. You choose to have this burden because it gives you an identity, which is also with the targeted individuals an issue, because there's a lot of emotional harm, there's a lot of emotional confusion, and there is the targeting, and there is this beautiful and disgusting program of being targeted. So how to go from one to the other and get the personal story out of the system of targeting. That's one thing that I hope that comes out of this conference, that there's going to be more clarity about how to deal with that. I work intuitively, so I don't I work like Sandra worked with her clients, research in all kinds of ways of healing. Sometimes I grab some crystals, or I say, you put your feet in the water, or I say, stand up, I have to, whatever. And it works. But to me, it's one way or another to get someone to recognize who they are and where they resonate with. So also with what I said, there are so many areas where you can do the healing. Like you can do the healing on a physical level, the emotional level, the mental level, but also, and I'm very interested in past life stuff and soul intent, and then beyond, because every old soul now on earth has agreed to be here in this most devastating times to be a light carrier. You say the torch barrier, something like that. And because there is no limit to that, I say, okay, that's then the challenge. I had one client that said she was really like this, big woman, like strong, like, and she walked in like that, and I said, okay. And after a while, she admitted that she was carrying the burden of all the family members that passed over. There was no other way she could give meaning to her life. And the funny way is she couldn't talk about it. She didn't dare to open her mouth, which is the chakra, which is the fifth, connected to the second chakra, your meaning in life, connected to your soul. And that was absolutely where she didn't want to go. No, I'm here because someone told me to be here, but I don't want to be here. Okay, then we won't talk. Let's draw. So I gave her some paper and crayons, and she drew herself in a really big, dark room with a burden, like a bag of Santa Claus, but then with really nasty presents on its back. And she was in this corner, in this drawing. She couldn't talk. I said, okay, we'll move all the packages in this bag of Santa Claus into the black space. Let's set it free. And she did, because she didn't have to talk. She could do it. So she did it, put the whole, like, souls of their family members, and said, yeah, but they're there. And I said, okay, so how does that feel? So, okay, fine. And then she made all the souls that she put in the black as well, and said, let them disappear into nothingness, because that's where they're supposed to be. Give them their freedom, allow them to go, and put yourself where you want to be right now. And then, to my surprise, she drew herself outside this black place, the paper. I said, okay, let's invite now the presence and the guidance of the souls that you carried with you for so long, because you're familiar with them. And then she cut some papers and color papered in half a little bit, and put them next to her. And that was a beautiful sign of support that she allowed herself to accept as a starting point of a long growing curve. Not the burden of those who didn't finish their story, but the support of those who didn't finish their story. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that really well. She was working on accepting the fact that she had an inner light, and also with getting the inner light a little bit stronger. We worked with drawings and art, and I really, really liked it. For me, art, or at least drawing or moving or music or everything, is a very good mean to get to know yourself really well, but also to allow healing to take place without the words. but even the words have a magical presence. They have a tone, they have a color, they have music in them. So that works as well. About the entities as well, it's like Mary Ann said this morning, Helen, it's not my forte to work with the dark forces, but because of me working with some who are related to people with who work with it, it's very important to know that there's a whole kaleidoscope of things that can be bothering people. I think the ones who are the real targeted individuals, like the ones that have been speaking yesterday, are the real torch bearers, because they took up the responsibility for themselves. They didn't identify with their pain only, they found meaning in what was happening to them, and therefore are the strongest souls to carry this light. So, my respect, big time, really big time. I want to go back to this healing area because my experience is that this time is a time of shift. There are so many things changing, and I'm sure you realize that the last few years a lot of things happened on the global base, as well as in your countries, in your towns, in societies, and in relations, in your jobs probably. It has been intensifying. We had the first shift in 1987, another one in 1994, another one in 2000, 2001, and then we had this big shift in 2012, and everybody said, nothing happened. Well, yes, a lot of things happened because it was the trigger that kind of pulled the carpet underneath us and made the whole thing shake. And that's the thing that's happening right now with everyone who's a little bit sensitive to input of guidance, of healing, of intuition and inspiration, that they feel that, how do I go about? There have been a lot of people triggered in such a way that they lost their job, they lost their relationship, they lost a physical well-being, they lost a focus, they lost clarity about who they are, where they are about, and that's exactly what was meant to happen. When people ask me, how am I going to deal with that? Because I don't know where to go anymore. I say, expand your awareness. Own your healing, expand your awareness. And I'm not talking about becoming awake, but because waking up is knowing that this stuff is happening. Well, we know the stuff is happening because you only have to read the newspaper, look at the TV, but also look at what happens in the street. And I must say, I live in Amsterdam, but sometimes I have a hard time walking the streets there, and so tourists going, and I mean, I'm a tourist once in a while. It's like, I was having coffee with a friend 2 weeks ago or something in a terrace, and there was a young woman with, how do you say, a buggy. She took out a baby that must have been only like 7, 8 days old. And it was bright and sunny weather, wind was blowing. She took out this child and she showed it to her friends on the terrace, all having beers, smoking. And I was, what on earth is she think she's doing? And the funny thing is, the whole energy on the terrace changed because everybody was sensitive to this shift of energy. This child started to cry like crazy, of course. It's almost a criminal thing to do that to a baby who's still like, every cell in that body is growing with a speed we hardly know of. Put that in a wind. And that's exactly what we do when we grow up. We put ourselves in the sunshine and in the wind and in blowing fast energy when we are growing inside, when we're evolving, when we don't take time to really look at what's going on inside us. So my advice then is to expand your awareness. Look what is happening to you. Get to know yourself. And I'm not only talking about the real you, I'm also talking about the one that has your name. So there are two parts of you that you have to get familiar with. I had to go and live through all kinds of trauma that I experienced with my family. But when you choose to do so and you say, okay, I don't mind, I want to get to know myself. It's okay. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Go for it. Then there is a shift in the sort of information that is coming through. And the nice thing is, because of the times that we're living in, if you do it now, it happens now. When I did a healing, say 2-3 years ago, sometimes it took like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to really get to a result. Now I can hardly finish my sentence and it's done. That's the speed we are working with right now. All of you, not me, all of you. And it's a miracle that we should carry and protect. And also acknowledge in one another, so we know that this whole existential loneliness is meant to be for a reason, because then you can detect the ones that you really resonate with. Good for you. I decided I had to clear some of my shit. Ooh, can I say that in Ireland? Ooh, I don't know. Well, I did it. And I went to a certain location where I knew there was a nasty thing that took place there. There was a bit of a curse, and there was a bit of nasty stuff that got into the generations of my family. And it was like, okay, I want to get rid of it now. I want to integrate it. I want to love it. I want to do my Ho'oponopono with this. I'll be there. I'll be with it. So I sat, and it was connected to a certain building. And I sat there, and what happens, and that's I love that you can be in it, and at the same time outside of it. And then I decided, okay, I need to reflect on what's happening now, because I got angry, like, whoa, damn, why did you do this? But at the same time, I felt like nothing is happening here. Where am I about? There was also a smile on my face, because I loved the fact that I was able to be there. And there was a huge amount of clarity that it was meant to be. And because all these sensations happened in the same time, the same moment, I thought, this is weird. Then who am I? I'm all of it. Wow. If I'm all of it, it means that I can choose which way to go. And from anger, depression, anger, you get into revenge mode, then in frustration, and then finally into forgiving, because you see the crack and the light comes in. And Miles, I'm never allowed to talk when you talk. My point here is that whenever you ask for a certain experience or a sensation, you go and choose the energy that you want to go with. And the fact that you recognize all these different layers of an experience, you can say, okay, I discern, this one suits me, this nurtures me, that one doesn't. And because this allowance makes it possible for you to be here right now. Oh, good exercise. Small exercise, little exercise. See if you can really sit on your seat right now and be aware of the walls of this room. That's at least as big as you are. When you exercise this while you're grounded, because being grounded is essential in this, you can expand your presence to any length, depth, space, or time. Then time and space are no longer a limit to your observations. You can go and be anywhere you are because you're seated in your chair and grounded. Okay? And I love it. And it helps you to get away from difficult situations as well. I was in a nasty neighborhood last week in Amsterdam. I thought, oh, I don't like this, I don't like this. I want to get out. I said, no, Mirjam. Hello. Work with it. And said, okay, now I'll connect to all the nasty places like this on the world. And suddenly I felt like, wow, this is just a stage. It's showing me that this emotion, this sensation is possible. But I don't have to identify with it. I can walk through it to the next stage. Wow. So, I mean, and this is happening over the last few months, that people are triggered to go into an expanded awareness. And awareness is knowing yourself enough to take your intuition and your sensations and your feeling, your emotions serious. So not be in a situation where you be kicked around by emotions or attacks or whatever, but say, okay, I'll sit in my chair, I go to the walls, this whole space is mine, this whole world is mine, show me what I need to see. And that helps. The funny thing is that also when that happens, when you allow yourself to get information from all these levels also outside these paradigms and go into this time and space-less space, you're in 5D. And it means you can allow things to flow to you, through you, and that is healing, very much. It also allows you to connect to others easier. It also makes you less judgmental. It also makes you heal faster your illnesses, your imbalances, because they're way out. When you allow yourself to be out there while you're here, then you allow any input that is screaming now to be set free from previous generations, previous cultures, ancient knowledge that wants to come through. And you can give it a safe base here in this body, realizing that you're the device that lets the information come through so you can radiate it to others. Why is this so important? Because when you do so, you invite others to do the same, but you also create a field in which those who are the heaviest targeted ones can find a little bit of safety. And it really starts from the bottom up. It is the daily practice. How do you treat yourself in the morning? Do you appreciate your coffee? Do you appreciate your body? Do you like to talk to nature? And the funny thing is, we can all do it. If you say, okay, I want to learn how to talk to flowers, do it tomorrow, because next week you will be able to do so. And if not, ask why not. It works. They call them I could There's a little trigger there. Miles, how much time? Katarina, I should ask you. 20 minutes. Okay. Then I can do another story about grounding, because that's one of the most important things that you can do right now. Because if you ground now, you are able to connect to an inner wisdom, an ancient wisdom, and that's been touched upon by several speakers as well, that is beyond anything that was available 5 years ago. What? This world, this whole universe wants to wake up. So they need us to be the tool, the device to get through. And grounding has exactly that effect on you when you ground. You know, all familiar with grounding? Yes. There's a little difference between earthing and grounding. When I ground people, sometimes you say, okay, ground. It's aligning all the spine, and it has to do with the Kundalini energy as well. It's aligned because you connect to the inner earth and to heaven. So your connection between earth and heaven turned out to be the theme of all my artwork in the last few years without me knowing it. Oh. But that's another lecture. I'm going to do that in a few years' time. But now I'm starting to understand where my art was about. And I always wondered, why doesn't it sell? Now I know. But grounding is something that is essential right now and the most difficult thing for most people who are looking for enlightenment. I'd say that New Agers are the most difficult clients for me. Why? Because they know it all. And I love it because they strive for something that is bigger than them. That's great. But because they want to go up, they forget to go down. And aligning yourself is indeed putting your tailbone into the earth. Not even your feet, the tailbone needs to make contact with the earth first. And then you can allow the energy of the earth to come through your feet, your knees, and back into your belly. And that enforces a flow of energy through your spine, up through your crown, and connect to all the energies out there to create a beautiful state of flow. A lot of people are now blocked here. I mean, sometimes I can feel it in my belly when it goes like, oh, Mirjam. But then it's kind of defense. So I'm a little uncertain here. Why can I not let it flow into my legs and in my knees and feet? A lot of people are blocked. A lot of people have troubles now with their kidneys, their liver, their intestines, their organs, sexual organs here. It doesn't work well. They get troubles moving their hips, knees, feet. And it's all because the grounding means that you accept who you are. And then I'm not talking about Mirjam, I'm talking about me. You. When you ground, you connect to a wisdom that is beyond you, because the crystal grid, there's been talks about crystals as well. To me, it's like a really dense, taking up space, inner knowledge that is there to connect with your inner knowledge, to make you realize that you're this flow of energy, and that's the only thing you are. And when you connect to this knowledge inside the earth, you're connecting to a grid, and it's formed by crystals, ancient sites, and I think there's a lot of things that we still need to discover about that. But it resonates and it mirrors the grid out there. So you can imagine, you don't have to go up, you have to go down. And it's much, You know, why fly to the moon when the moon is down there? The beautiful thing that happens there is that you get into a state of energy, of flow, that is beyond everything you've ever imagined. And it's like Carrie said, if you have this Kundalini experience, go, whoa. And it's something that when you experience that, you can always go back to it. I had a client recently was working, and that goes for a lot of people, and especially the old souls that have done so much work already. They have been researching themselves. They went through all kinds of workshops and lectures and read books, and they really did do everything they could do for their physical body as well. But when they didn't allow themselves to ground, then the information doesn't flow. And this was a guy, he'd been just to Peru and talking to with shamans, and really like, I said, wow, this guy knows a lot. But he was stuck, and he said, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And then I said, okay, let's look at it. And then I discovered, like again, it's the mind control that is there because there are so many systems that are really only striving on control. I know. I said, your spine is all blocked. It's not working. So allow me to give you a healing. And the beautiful thing is that I saw, because he was ready. He had done so much work on himself. He was ready. So I put him on a chair. And from a distance, I mean, it doesn't have to be much anymore. There were crystals. I saw crystals being placed in his whole spine between every vertebra. And it was like fluff, fluff. And he went like, whoa. And it was an immense silence that occurred. And there was nothing more to say, because he finally gave in to the fact that he was an old shaman, carrying so much inner wisdom, restricted himself for years and years and years because his father worked for the church and said, no, don't go outside the books. But that moment he recognized his own origin and the fact that he was a torchbearer, which was great. So grounding is very important. Don't forget, when you ground also, and you go out and say, okay, I'm gonna exercise this, wow, me being big, even bigger, do protect yourself. You know, and find ways that suit you. Overall, get to know you by looking for people who can tell you really who you resonate with, what you resonate with, what food, what exercise, what books, what education, which job, because that's all going to change within the coming few years. The whole system is going to change because it has to. And it's already changing from the bottom up. And we don't see it and we don't hear about it, but it's happening. So when you know and say, okay, I embrace the fact that this is happening, I'm part of it. No matter how lonely I feel, I know I'm part of it. Sit in it. And then it will happen and get stronger. And you will experience the synchronicities that show you you are. The funny thing is that when I was thinking about how to describe this situation of expanded awareness, it's like, you know, you're in a state of flow. I said, wait a minute, I've heard that before. And it was this Hungarian psychologist who described the state of flow. You're familiar with being in a state of flow? There are people that have maybe experienced this once or twice in their life. And they say, what? I was shocked when I heard that. The funny thing is, I went to the lecture where he presented his book on the state of flow, and there were only psychologists in the hall, and everyone was dressed, and I was like, a young girl, not knowing where this was all about. But the state of flow is exactly what I'm talking about. You lose your sense of time. You have clarity about where you're going. You know you can deal with the situation. You like the adventure. You lose your sense of time. You lose your sense of place. Time goes by really fast, so you can manipulate time, and you are in it for the process. I think that's exactly where this expanded awareness is about. It's only on a little bigger scale. But look it up, and you'll see, and you can resonate with it or not. But look it up and see what happens when you read it or live it. Because the state of flow is exactly where you're meant to be. Because when you are flow, you allow yourself to experience this flow of light. You are light and light only. This world is a temporary place. Your light is eternal. You are supposed to enjoy the fact that you are light. Maybe a good moment for the show to go on. I wish you a very good flow. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mirjam. It was really inspirational talk. Just to let the audience know, you do work also with people over distance, over Skype,
yes.
Do you?
Yes. I do sessions by Skype. I've just been talking to some people from Dublin to organize a workshop on grounding, protecting, and this state of flow. So when you're interested, put your name out and I'll come back. And it will be my joy, because I flew into Dublin and I saw the airport and the water and the beautiful evening sunlight, and my eyes teared up. I thought, wait a minute. So there's something I need to do here as well. So great. Yes, and you can contact me through email. My website will be underneath the YouTube film as well. So thank you.
Okay, this is how they find your contact details underneath. Do you have any cards or anything to?
A few.
Okay, so, you know, we had a few.
Mirjam, you're live. Tell people what your website is.
Oh yeah, okay, oh yeah. oh, those millions. I forgot about them. Jesus, I was expanded. Ooh, my website is, Jesus, mirjamjanse.com, and Janse is without an N at the end of mirjamjanse.com. But I've been hacked 2 weeks ago, so it will be up in a few weeks. But do contact me, because mail@mirjamjanse is my email address. Contact me, I will be delighted to hear from you. Thank you.
People like your jacket and they want to know who you are.
I think you're told by now, right?
Just give them a resume.
Okay, I am. I'm still learning who I am, and I like the trip that I'm on. I like to travel, and my name is Mirjam Janse. I work in Amsterdam as well as in England, in Wiltshire and in London, and what else? Artist. My lecture's gonna be on art in 2 years. More, Miles?
Hold on. Thank you so much, Mirjam. Just give a big applause. Thank you so much.